All right, guys, welcome to tonight's charting session. It is August 10th. It is Thursday. I hope everybody's having a good day. Today, we're going to be going over the trades that we ended up taking today, kind of go over the action. What was my bias going into the morning? What was my bias going into the PM session? I ended up taking two trades. First one got stopped out. Second one was a really nice win. So we'll go over both of those and just kind of go over the overall action. So first thing I want to start off with is going into the day on NQ. So the first thing I want to talk about is looking at the 4-hour time frame is what we're really starting to look at, right? So starting off actually on the daily, going into the day, I was pretty bearish, but I did want to be a little bit careful. Now, going into the day, we did have this daily fair value gap that we were opening up in. So we were in a possibly area that we could bounce to the upside on a bigger time frame. But for me to actually be bullish, I need to see a break of structure to the upside, right? Because let me draw this in this daily fair value gap in. When we open up in the morning, for me to have validation that we're actually going to bounce off of this to then, let's say this is buy side, I have to see a break of structure on at least a 4-hour time frame, which is this high. This high needs to get broken through with big displacement for me to validate my long bias, and then I would say this becomes the draw on liquidity. But this does not become the draw unless this high gets broken through with big displacement, right? Because this is what it would look like. This would now be our break of structure. And then we could possibly pull back to the breaker, and then that would be the draw. This would be that first high, and then possibly this. But going into the morning, I am possibly a little bit bullish in the morning because that could be the draw, right? Coming up, that's what we ended up doing. Is I was bearish going into the day, but in the AM session, I'm not super bearish because I know that we'll probably end up retracing the discount, possibly end up coming up and sweeping that level. So going into the morning, we'll start on the 5-minute here. We did have a little bit choppy action, and I was a little bit bearish here going into the morning because look at this wick. We did sweep this internal buy-side level, and I was looking to see one of two things. Either I want to see displacement to the downside, or I want to see bullish fair value gaps holding and giving us validation that we're probably going to go higher. So going on NQ, there was a possible long setup that you could have taken, and it would have been right here. Now it is a little bit lower probability because buy-side's already been swept, but it's still not a bad trade. So for me to validate my short bias, I have to see this low or some sort of low up here get displacement to the downside, which we never did. We actually came into this 5-minute fair value gap, continued to hold this area, and then we ended up getting that nice move to the upside to sweep the actual draw, which was that bigger time frame, right? If we're too zoomed in, right, this internal high is not giving us a lot of information. Now, we could sweep this and go back down, but if we zoom out, right, to a 1 hour or a 4-hour, that high that we initially had internally doesn't exist anymore. So this high here, we have to be a little bit careful taking shorts because internal buy-side liquidity, we can end up going right through that to take what the actual draw is, which would be this high here. Now, this to me does look like a low resistance liquidity run, but this does not become low resistance unless we get displacement through this level. So going into the morning, I was very, very patient. I just wanted to see more action and let the market kind of do what it wanted to do. Now, the possible opportunity you could trade here would be this. Now, actually, I don't think this got tapped on NQ, but it did on ES. Looking at ES here on the 5-minute, that morning opening price, we came back to that 5-minute fair value gap, showing that we still want to go higher, right? Continuing to hold. That's when I zoom into the 1-minute and I can say, okay, waiting for price to validate this. You can see we come down, we sweep that internal level right here. We retrace back to discount of this range. And then we end up getting that big move to the upside at the open, breaking structure, pull back to fair value gap. This would have been a possible long that you could have taken. Your first target would have been that buy side level here, and then you could have let that runner go to that buy side level there. That was the only really possible long I would have taken. Other than that, I really would not have looked to catch this move. My biggest thing is I want to wait for that hunt to already happen, and then that's when I can take advantage, right? Because when we're in the middle of this range, right? When we're in the middle of a range, a lot of the times it's hard to tell what the draw is, right? Especially we can come up, take this high. Okay, yeah, I'm looking to take shorts, but unless market tells me that I should take shorts, I'm not touching it, right? And if we're looking at a 5-minute, there was no displacement to the downside. There was no break of structure to the downside. So I'm not interested in taking any sort of shorts unless I get that, which we never did. So we came back, continued to hold that bullish for 5-minute fair value gap, got a nice move to the upside. Then we ended up coming up and sweeping that 15-minute high, right? That same high we had on NQ. Now, looking at ES, though, ES sweeps this internal high, but we also sweep this high right here, which we never ended up taking on NQ. So this now becomes SMT. We have a divergence between ES and NQ. If we look at NQ at the time, the high on ES, I believe, was this high. And we end up forming an SMT divergence. So I'm very, very bearish at this time. A lot of the people in chat, when I was looking to take shorts up here, they were like, nah, this looks like a retracement to go up. They're like, nah, blah, blah, blah. When in reality, I'm very, very pretty confident that this move is just going to continue us to the downside, because you have to zoom out and say, hey, that move to the upside has already been taken. Now, we absolutely could have gone through this, but everything that is telling me to pick a bias is saying more bearish than I am bullish, right? Why is that? Well, we just swept this 1 hour high, right? If we just swept a bullish buy side level and we're having displacement to the downside automatically, notice there's no follow through this level. There's nothing. 1 minute comes up, we automatically displace back inside this range. That is what we want to see if we're looking for a sweep of liquidity. Also, we have an SMT divergence, a bearish divergence that is bearish, showing that price wants to go lower, as well as the draw on liquidity is still this low. I still think we go lower, as well as we've just constantly been going lower in the last 2 weeks. So all of these things on a bigger time frame are validating a bearish bias. A lot of you guys are too zoomed in looking at this move alone, saying, hey, we've had a move to the upside. We could end up, continuing through this, when you have to really figure out, okay, why is this move happening, right? Because markets, we know markets move to whatever the draw on liquidity is. That's what the hunt is, right? We want to see that liquidity being taken first to give us a better understanding of then where market wants to go. So too many people are zoomed in and focused on this move when you should be focused on what happens after this move. Once this high is taken, that is when we can look for opportunity, because then we can say, okay, bigger time frame, if we break through this and then pull back, I'm going to be pretty bullish, and then I would say the draw then becomes this high. But notice, we never have any displacement through this high, so I'm very, very bearish. So we zoom in. Now, what was the first possible opportunity that we could have taken? Well, looking at the 1 minute, where is the first break of structure? I would say the first break of structure probably would be here. We have a low put in. It's clear to us. We come back up, reject higher. We don't take that high. And then we get a nice move through this low, breaking structure back towards the downside. Okay, then what do we look for? We look for a pullback to a fair value gap. This was that fair value gap right here. Pull back, ends up tapping, comes back, taps it again, comes back, taps it 3 times, and then ends up selling off. Now, the reason I did not take this, and actually we talked about this last night, last night's charting session. But a lot of the times how I trade is I want to wait for that first initial entry to validate itself, to give me confidence on what the draw on liquidity is. Now, just by looking at this action here, noticing that we're not displacing through this high, we're starting to displace after sweeping it, and we have an SMT, this is automatically telling me up here that the draw is going to be these lows, right? And anybody that was in the live session, that's exactly what I said. I'm not confident that we're going to go higher. I'm more confident that we're probably going to sell off and come back to these lows, because that's going to be whatever that recent sell side is, right? If we look at the 15-minute, this is our next recent low in what we call low-hanging fruit, and then this is what the external draw on liquidity would be. But this low here is our internal low that is pretty easy. That's why we call it low-hanging fruit, is I have much more confidence that we're going to take at least this low than this low. So we look in. This would have been your first possible entry that you could have taken. Now, I wanted to wait. Once I saw that we continued to hold this and we continue to get really big displacement to the downside, that is when I was really confident that the draw is lower. Once we get this big move to the downside, I'm very confident that this low is going to be taken. So that is when I look to take possible short entries. Now, I was initially looking for us to come back up to this fair value gap. Looking at the 15-minute, we had a nice 15-minute fair value gap aligned here, as well as a 5-minute up here, and that was aligning in discount at the time. If we're looking at where that was, if I draw this in, that 5-minute fair value gap aligned really nicely with that discounted level, and that's what I was originally seeing. Now, this is the first trade I want to talk about and why I took this, because a lot of you guys were saying, oh, that would have been a chase, whatever. Now, the reason I took this trade, and keep in mind, I traded it with half size. I only traded 1 NQ contract on this. The reason I only traded 1 con is because this is an insurance play. This is basically saying, hey, if we don't go back to this level, I'm at least in 1 contract to take advantage of this move, because I have enough confidence to say this is the draw on liquidity that I can enter 1 con, risk maybe 300, 400, and I'll be fine with getting stopped out if it doesn't go my way, because I know that I'll be able to re-enter and get a better entry later on once we get more structure or once I get more validation on what the actual, proper trade or proper entry is going to be. So I'm totally fine taking the stop. Again, I agree. It is not the best. It's not the best entry. I wouldn't normally take that entry, but I have confidence that the draws here, so it was worth giving it a stab, especially when we came back up. We were rejecting this 1 minute fair value gap, and then once I started to see that little bit of rejection, I entered short with a little bit of a stop above, and then I ended up getting stopped out, and then we ended up selling off. So even if I put my stop a little bit higher, it still would have worked out, but keeping a tight stop is exactly what I want to do for this specific trade, because if it doesn't work out, it's quick, it's over, and I can always look to re-enter. But if this does go in my favor, at least I'm taking advantage of this, and I have some money on the table to take advantage of my bias that I'm confident in. So this ends up getting stopped out. We continue to the downside. That 5 minute fair value gap ends up getting rejected. Right here, we tap this right here and then end up selling back off. And by the time we come down here and then come back up, I still have confidence that this low is going to be taken. So what do I look for? I look for an internal model. Now, I had this high initially drawn. Now, what do I want to see to be confident on a really good A+ entry? Well, I have my bigger time frame bias, right? My bigger time frame bias is this low, is the draw. Okay, how can I take advantage knowing that markets are probably going to come to take this low out? I need an internal model, meaning I need some sort of internal buy-side level being swept and a bigger time frame PD array being disrespected. That is what I get here. We have an internal high. Oh, wrong thing. We have an internal high. We end up putting a low. Notice we never end up taking this low here. We never end up taking this low. We come back up. We sweep this, all of those buy stops, right? Everybody that's in short, anybody that's in short at this point in time, right? Throughout this whole move, trailing their stop, they're always going to put it at whatever that recent high is. So this high is having a lot of limit orders. We come back up, stop all those traders out. Notice where we're rejecting as well. We have a really nice 5 minute fair value gap overlapped. So again, we sweeping internal liquidity and rejecting a bigger time frame fair value gap. That 5 minutes getting rejected. What do I wait for? I wait for displacement to the downside and a fair value gap. We get, boom, big selling pressure to the downside. That's that big candle. That's all I need. That's all I need to know and validate my bias. Wait for that 1 minute. We get a pullback in it. I get tapped in short, and I get a nice move targeting that sell side level. Notice, when you get good trades, this is what they should look like. When you have a confident draw, it'll be quick. That's one thing I really like about our strategy is a lot of the time when you're wrong, you'll find out pretty quick you're wrong. And when you're right, you'll find out pretty quick that you're right. Because a lot of the time, the draw and liquidity, if you're entering time-based macros or whatever it is, you are going to get a move like this where you enter and it's straight to whatever that draw is, right? That is called building confidence over time and having confidence on where the markets are going. At this point in time, at the highs, when everybody else is thinking, hey, this is just a pullback, hey, this is a bull flag, right? Oh my God, all retail traders are being like, hey, oh, we're bull flagging here. We're going to break out to the upside, right? And then they try longing this just to get railed. I'm confident at this point in time that this is where we're heading, right? And that just comes with experience and understanding liquidity and understanding how markets move. But this was a really, really nice trade. Very happy with this. I'm up 3.6K on my live account, and I'm up like 2K on the eval. We're at 156 right now. So again, we took this on live. Good with the trade. Very happy with that. And then really, I didn't really look at anything else on the day. Let's see if there was maybe any other opportunity. That sell side level was swept. We came up, break, kind of had that pullback. At this point, again, I think market closed at this time, so nothing else after this I would have really looked at to take. Let's take a look at ES here as well. ES pretty much the exact same thing. Yep. All right. Any questions on that so far? And then we'll go into what we're looking at tomorrow. Any questions on those trades? Entered short when everyone was talking about going long and being long biased. Saw what market told me and executed regardless of everyone else's analysis. Exactly. I love it, Brandon. That's guys, one thing I want you guys to focus on as well, and what I talked about when we were in San Diego, Brandon, is don't be clouded by all of the noise. If you have a bias and you have confidence with that bias, do not let other people, don't even let me, don't let me. Now, I'm going to say my own bias, and you should take it into account, but don't let yourself get clouded by other biases, other noise, because as traders, I want you guys to be able to build confidence with your own bias, right? Because when you have confidence and you have actual true conviction, that is what is going to make you profitable. Because when you're entering trades and you don't have any confidence, in the back of your mind, you're always going to be self-doubting your own trade, saying, "Oh, was this the right trade, or am I chasing, or am I this, am I this?" And you start overthinking all of these possibilities when it doesn't need to be that complicated. Wait for the market to tell you what it wants to do. Okay, we come up, buy side 30 swept, get displacement down. Okay, what does that tell me? Hey, we're going to go to whatever that low is. All right, I'm taking that into account. I'm not letting anybody I don't care what you trade. I don't care anything. I am using what the market is telling me from my experience, and I am taking that into the day knowing what I should be trading. I don't care if you're long biased. I don't care if you're short biased with me. I'm going to trust my own instinct and trust what the market's telling me from what I've built from experience, and I'm going to use that to my advantage because I have confidence with it. That's why a lot of the time you guys will not see me really hesitate on a trade. I might question it. I might say, hey, I want to see this, this, and this happen first before I enter. I like shorts, but I want to see a little bit more. And that's why I didn't enter up here, is because I have confidence we're short, but I want to be sure. I want to be 100% sure that this becomes the draw. And once we get this move here, I am very, very sure and very, very confident that this becomes the draw in liquidity. And then I can use that to my advantage. But you have to be patient, right? I don't care. I don't care to miss out on any possible trades here. I do not care. Get out of that mindset. There's no trades here for me. There is no trades. You want to know why? Because this does not give me any sort of confidence like this does, right? Use that to your advantage. Justin has taught me so well that sometimes I don't agree with Justin Law. Everyone has different views based on how they trade. Trade your strengths. Absolutely. Always trade your strengths. Every trader's differently. Everybody has different personalities. Use that to your advantage. Find what you're comfortable with. Today's my birthday. Can I get happy birthday, Christian? Any advice for 20-year-old trader in college? Happy birthday, Christian. Again, my advice would just be keep working, brother. You are young. I'm young. You have plenty of time. You got a lot of safety. That's the one thing about trading so early on. And when you're young is you have a lot of things to fall back on. So take advantage when you're young. You're angsty. You're strong. You're mentally, there. You're ready to get at it. Take advantage of that. Keep working hard. And believe in yourself and just make it happen, bro. Crazy how there's only 50 people in here with the value. I know. Exactly. Yep. No rent due. We can take the losses now. I'm 16, bro. I have no other option. I changed my entire schedule to study. Mantis, you got plenty of time, bro. You are young. Got plenty of time, bro. Why did you enter off that fair value gap? Because once I get validation that this bigger time frame gets rejected, I then look internal, which is that 1 minute, and I look that's where I take my entry. So once I get internal buy side swept, right, this high being taken, we get displacement back down, and on a bigger time frame, we're rejecting that 5 minute fair value gap. That is when I zoom in and I look for my entry on a 1 minute being that 1 minute fair value gap right here. What's considered young in this industry? I honestly couldn't tell you. There's a lot of young traders. I think probably in the last couple years, trading has really, became normalized. Like a lot of people have been looking to start trading, and it's a lot of young people. So I think it's definitely a lot more younger people now starting to get into trading than ever before. I know you say screen time, but like, how do you know when to wait? You'll know. When it's clear, it should be clear. The more experience that you build and the more that you backtest and the more that you watch these, again, this is why we do charting sessions every night, because we can actually review, say, hey, what is a good thing to do? What is a bad thing to do? Why did I do something? Why did this work? Why did it not work? And the more time that you get to just watch the market, the more that you're able to read it and understand it. It's just like anything that you do, literally anything, whether it be, learning how to play an instrument, playing a sport, whatever it is. The more that you do it, the easier it becomes. The same thing with trading. The more that you just sit and watch and you execute and you fail and you succeed and you learn, all of those things are building experience. And the more time goes by, the more you're going to be comfortable with taking trades. You're going to be more confident and you're going to have more conviction. Started journaling 6 months ago, and you've been carrying most of it with all the value. Much love, brother. Yes, this is sick, bro. This is what I love to fucking see. Love to fucking see this. Absolutely. You're ahead of the game, Mantis. This is what everybody should be doing. All right, so let's go over what we're looking at going into tomorrow. Take a look on NQ first. Again, where we are right now, still going to be pretty bearish going into tomorrow until we take this buy side. And I do think this is the draw on liquidity. Looking at that daily, if I'm not going to lie, the daily looks like we want to get a sell-off, to be honest. All of these candles seem to be rejecting. Any move that we get to the upside automatically gets sold off. We get a retracement into this daily fair value gap. Boom, sells off. A little bit candle trying to get back up, sells off. We get a nice move today, instantly comes back. Look at the way that this daily candle closed, guys. Look at the way that this daily candle closed. This looks to me that we want to flip right back down and take out this sell side level right here. So looking at internal, looking at that a 4 hour, actually probably a 1 hour, what I could expect is one of two things. Either first thing I want to see is come back up to this 1 hour fair value gap. That's the first thing I want to see happen. Now keep in mind, we did sweep that internal level, so we are going to see more upside. And I know that markets are probably going to go to 50% of this range, which lies perfectly in that 1 hour fair value gap. So depending on what happens in the overnight session, what I would like to see is I would like to see this becomes our new sell side. And I would like to see us come up and reject this fair value gap. Come up, maybe even come back up, form some internal structure. Sweep this high right here. We do have this internal high. On the 5 minute, would like to see maybe that get swept and then look to come back down. Or we kind of have now formed relative equal highs up here. We could even come up and sweep these highs and then look to take another short, right? Again, I will not be bullish until this high, right? Zooming out to a 4 hour, I need to see one of these highs get broken through with a lot of displacement to the upside. I need to see a big push through it, and then I can be bullish, right? Because this does look like a nice breaker. We could get a bull run tomorrow and break through this, and then this becomes breaker, right? That could be a possibility as well. But I am mostly going to be pretty bearish going into the day. I do want to see this low being taken. I do think that that is the draw on liquidity. We have, again, this is a perfect market maker model here. We have buy side of the curve, manipulation at the highs, retracement, starting to sell back off. This is when that model finishes, is when we take that sell side level. We have buy side of the curve, sell side of the curve. Can you please make more videos about Top Step? What specifically? All right, guys, that is pretty much all I have for you guys tonight. It's definitely a good day to bring back. I've been gone for the last week. This first day back, we're already killing it. So let's keep it going. Let's end the week off strong tomorrow morning on Friday. And if anybody has any further questions, again, always feel free to just at me in the Discord, and I'll always help you guys out. Your experience with using the platform. I actually haven't used Top Step for that long. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your night. I will see you all tomorrow. Get some rest, and let's end the week off strong. Peace.